somehow, Lord. So let's move on to the merry-go-round. Does anybody like the merry-go-round? I used to, but I'm starting to have some motion sickness now. It's really sad. It makes me feel even older. So the merry-go-round, one thing that's interesting about the merry-go-round is I remember growing up going to Riverside, it was Riverside, and wherever else, Mountain Park. Anybody remember Mountain Park? Yeah. And my mother always had us go on the merry-go-round at the end. And it was because that was our time to kind of debrief, regroup, relax. That was the last ride, and we knew that that was the end of our day, and we just sat there for however long it goes around with the wind going through our hair. And I think of that sometimes in my relationship with the Lord, how at the end of a day, at the end of the week, wherever it is for you, how I need to regroup, I need to get back with the Lord, I need to just kind of sit in His presence and focus on the outside? No. Focus on the center of the merry-go-round. And so that's one piece that I think of when I think of a merry-go-round. Now the scripture on the next page, this I believe is the closest that Paul ever came to babbling after sleep deprivation like a mother. If you've ever read this scripture, it's hard to read it. I'm not even going to read it out loud because I can't. It's so hard. But the gist of it is he keeps doing what he doesn't want to do. And what he does want to do, he can't do. You know, and it's like, it's just a classic mom run-on sentence. But I think it's really close to sleep deprivation. And it reminded me of a merry-go-round, of course, because, you know, kind of going around. So I have to tell you, my littlest, we had the blessing of sending him to a wonderful Christian woman for a daycare. And he always had a kind of a loose mouth, if you want to call it. He always does. He just says what he feels, says what he means, that's it, comes out. And if you're not prepared, you can't stop it. And so classic, you know, he's on the phone with my mom, who lives in Florida the majority of the year. She was not due to come back yet, and he says to her, "Hi, Grammy, how are you? When are you coming?" And I hear him say, "No, because Mommy's cleaning." Thanks, Adam. So in other words, my house is not clean unless my mother comes, which is true, but I didn't need her to know that. So another time he goes to this Christian daycare, I pick him up, she's laughing at the door, she goes, "Oh, Adam's such a joy," and he is a joy, most of the time. And I was looking at her, I'm like, what did he do? What? Because she's laughing. She goes, "Well, we say grace every meal." Yeah, I know, you're a Christian, you say grace every meal, yeah. Well, he knows we say grace. This time, he refused to not eat. He insisted on eating during grace. And she said, "Adam, why are you doing that? You know we say grace first." He goes, "No, at my house, grace is for company." And unfortunately, he was a bit right. And the reason that this came up is because I have relatives who have a church in Wisconsin. They're a pastor and pastor's wife of a church. And they had just been visiting. And when they're there, it's not that I do things for show, but I'm a lot more conscious of what I'm doing and not doing. And quite frankly, we had just said grace all week because they were there, and half the time, Mark, the pastor, would say it. He'd just start, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right, good, yeah." So we were on top of it. And Adam picked up, you know, that I don't always say it, and I still struggle, honestly, with saying it, just forgetting in the busyness of life. So I thought, you know, it's typical, yeah, I try, and I can't. And then, so I go back and try again. I get back on the merry-go-round, I center myself, I focus. And the cool thing about a merry-go-round is you can pick a horse that goes up and down, you can pick a rabbit, you can pick all sorts of things depending on the merry-go-round you're on and where you're at. You can pick one that doesn't move, you can pick a bench. You know, you have a choice. And for those of you that really hate going round and round, sometimes we sacrifice and do it anyways for our kids. Some of you can't do it, so your ride may be something else. But what is it that centers you? What is it that brings you back? That's what we need to focus on.